Before we get started, let's go over the supplies that I will be using that are available from Country Craft Creations. So of course, starting off with the album. This is the pre-made 12 by 12 insta-Album by Heartfelt Creations that you can pick up at the Country Craft Creations online shop. Look under Heartfelt Creation Dies and it is listed there. This is the 12 by 12 size that I'm going to be using for the wedding album. So everything's already put together for you. You don't need to buy any cardstock to create your album or any chipboard. It's already put together with all the flaps and everything. Of course, I will be adding a few extra photo flaps and things in the album. So you will need some cardstock, and I'll go over your color choices that you might want to get for that. So that's the album that you will be using for this tutorial. You will want some discs, some magnetic discs. These are the large basic gray. I'm pretty sure that we'll be using some of these. I have 2 packs just to be safe of the large magnetic discs that you want. Those are available from Country Craft Creations. If you like score tape, you might want to get some score tape, and then also some score tape sheets are also available from the store. Let me grab one to show you. These come in really handy too, and putting down your papers really nice and smooth. And of course, art glitter glue. So I have a full new bottle of that because this is a big album. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be needing it. For decorative items, these are the bookmark sets that match the Here Comes the Bride paper collection and the charm. So I have one of each of these packs to decorate with. I'm going to be using seam binding ribbon. I have chosen to use ivory. You can choose to use maybe a color of your wedding that you want, so the pinks or whatever color goes with your photos. Black would be lovely, a gold or silver. So I'm going to be using ivory in my project, and that's also from Country Craft Creations. Of course, you're going to be using the exclusive Here Comes the Bride paper collection. I have 2 full collection packs because some of the page sheets I'm going to want to use more than 3. 3 do come in this, but there's certain patterns because this is a really big album, a 12 by 12 album. You're going to need more of some of the pages of the papers that come. So I do have 2 full collection sets for that. And then the cardstock choices that you might want to consider for your photo mats. So like I said, I'm going to be adding in some photo flaps mats into the book that are not included, of course, perhaps a waterfall or something like that. So I have here the black, the natural, which is the ivory color, and then of course a really pretty gold shimmer. So those are your choices that you might want to consider to have for your wedding album project. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is work on the back of our cover. Now in this pre-made Heartfelt insta-Album, you're going to notice these measurements, 12 inches by 12 3/8. So if I take my ruler here, you're going to see that the height is the 12 because this is telling you what size pattern paper to cut out, a 12 by 12 3/8, but we have 12 by 12 paper. So if you cut a 12, you're going to have this margin, which is about what I would like to have with a pattern paper. But I'm going to be doing some layering, and I'm going to show you what to do to take care of this wider 12 3/8 area. See, now if we put a 12-inch piece here, we're going to have a bigger margin than we normally would. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take some of my solid cardstock and I'm going to do a border strip around the edge, and then we can start doing our layering with other cardstock. So I'm going to use 2 colors of cardstock, and I have pretty much narrowed it down to that I want the gold, the shimmer here, and that's the one that I'm going to make a border out of for now. And then I want a layer of this, and then this pattern paper, which is the back side of the champagne glasses. So this is what the outside of my wedding album is going to be made with, is this pattern paper here on the front, the sides, and the back. I want it all the same. So first thing we're going to do is make us some border strips. So for the back cover, off camera, I cut two 1-inch by 12-inch strips. And I ended up, because this is longer, needing to splice it. So I've made 4 5.5-inch. So I glued them from here to here. And then I added a 1 1/4 overlapping just a little bit with the gold. So you do see some of the joints right here underneath on the edge. If that's a problem, you don't like that, you can always put a band of lace. So which is something that I may do wrapping around. And then the natural or ivory colored cardstock, I cut that out at 11 3/4 tall to make double sure. Yeah, 11 3/4 tall, and left it at the 12. 11 3/4 by 12. And then the pattern paper from the Here Comes the Bride is 11. Make sure, double check here. 11 3/4 wide by 11 1/2, and that gave us that little border around that. So I like how that looks. That's the back side. So now we're ready. So before I proceed with the front cover of this large wedding album, I want to make sure everyone understands how I did the back. I did the back first with the gold pearl sheen cardstock. I cut 4 pieces 1-inch by 12. Okay, one will work on one direction, but the other way it is too short. So this, I put 2 here like this. Okay, but it doesn't quite go as far out as I want it to. It ends here on each side. So I took 2 of the 12-inch long ones and I cut 4 pieces that are 5 1/2, and then I cut 2 pieces that are 1 1/4. And what I did is, after I put this one down, then I attached this one here, a short one, okay, and I overlapped it just a little bit, and then I put another long one to cover this whole section. And I wanted it about 1/8 of an inch from the edge all the way around. Then I measured down and put my ivory, which this one is 12 by 11 3/4 to make that layer, and then the pattern paper layer is 11 3. Make sure, yeah, 11 3/4 by, looks like 11 1/2. So I'm going to put that down in a cutting list so that we have that, and that's how I did the back. And also, when you're putting it down, I opened up the whole album to get it flatter in this, so that you want to be sure you really burnish really well or use score tape instead of glue. So that's how I did the back. I didn't show it all on camera. I apologize for that, but it's really simple, especially if you're layering it. And that's really the only way I know to get the full coverage, because with a 12 by 12, it's going to stop pretty short. Or you can piece different pieces if you want, like a pattern on the back. So now we're ready to do some patterning on the front and the sides. Now before we do that, we need to decide about our magnets, okay? So here on the cover, this is designed to use the large, thick magnets by Heartfelt Creations, which we're not carrying at Country Craft Creations because they're really thick, and I personally don't like the thickness. If that is something you like, you know, and you have those magnets, that's fine. For the cover, you would put one here, and then make sure that your other one goes on the inside cover where it's marked as 1. Okay, but I am not going to do that. I'm going to put my magnets here on the front. I'm going to use the basic gray, and then I'm going to put them here on the front under my patterned paper. So I am thinking that because of the heaviness of this album, I think I want to put 2 sets, one here and one here. So I'm going to ignore that, and I'm going to grab my magnet sets. So I need 2 positives, 2 minus. So let me grab the other one, and I'm going to go ahead and put those on now so I don't forget. That's a minus and another positive. Okay, so I'm going to grab my Scotch tape, my white Scotch tape, and I'm going to peel the backing off of one of these, and I'm going to bring it in about an inch from the right side. It's about that's 3/4 of an inch, 3/4 from the right, and about 1.5 inches from the top. I'm going to do the same down here on the bottom. So I'm putting 2 on this cover flap instead of just 1 in the center. So I'm just going to put this about the same, about 1.5 inches, about 3/4 of an inch. Yeah, right there. And then I'm going to secure those with Scotch tape because that kind of helps to hide that under the paper. Okay. And now we're going to attach the 2 together. And these magnets are available. They're called the large basic gray magnetic disc. They come with adhesive on them. Now we're going to close this up. Make sure everything matches here, top and bottom. I'm going to press down on it. And gently lift apart. So there they are where they need to be here on the front cover. And this is what will go under the paper. So it doesn't have to go through as many thicknesses of this album cover this way. And so that's what I'm going to do for my album. Okay, so now we have those on there, and it will hold it shut. Now I'm ready to cut the pattern paper, and I'm going to use the same paper that I did on the back. I'm going to use it here on the front of my album. So to cover the front part here and here of the album, and of course the sides, I'm going to do that in sections. I'm going to do it, put it all together, the layers, and then put it on the book. And I'm going to give you the measurements that I use. You can determine what you want to do based on your album, or if you're layering or not. So I'm going to set this aside right now. I don't need this for right now. And I'll give you the measurements and also putting it in a cutting list below. So the first section is the biggest one. And so I'm going to take a natural. Now I haven't looked at my orders. I'm trying to determine if this is the gold or the natural. Either the gold or the natural pearl sheen, whichever you're using. You want the full 12 by 12. So I have that. And then I cut a natural cardstock that's 11 3/4 by 11 3/4. So that goes together there. And then the pattern piece is 11.5 by 11.5. So I'm going to put those together. I'm going to glue those and put those together like that. Then for the other short piece on the front, you need from your pearl sheen, you need a piece that is 4 3/4 wide by 12. And then of your natural, you want 4.5 by 11 3/4. And of your pattern paper, you need 4 1/4 by 11.5. So we have that. So that will go together, and that will go on the album. And then on the sides, the pearl sheen, you need 2 that are 1 inches by 12. From the cardstock, the natural color, 2 that are 3/4 inches by 11 3/4. And then your pattern paper would be 1/2 inch by 11.5. So I'm going to go ahead off camera, glue all these together, and then I'll come back and we'll put them on the cover. Okay, so I have all my pieces glued together. What's real important about when you're gluing, layering pieces like this big, you must burnish in between. What I like to do is when I put each layer down, my hands and really rub it good with my hands, and then take a nice big burnishing tool and really burnish it. You want to make sure all those bubbles between each layer of the glue is spread out really well. So I have all these ready. So I'm ready to put them on the album. It is easier for me to do it without doing it on camera, because sometimes I have to get my head in there, so I don't want to do that. But what I suggest that you do is you open up your album so that you are, and it's big, so that's why I'm doing it off camera, because I can't really get it all in there really good. But anyway, flatten it out as much as you can. So what I'm going to do is I will glue this one down here on the front. Let me see if I can do it on camera or not. And then this one here on the side. So see, this is going to glue here on the front. And then we have one of the skinny pieces here that I layered up is going to go right here. So go ahead and get your book as flat as possible when you're gluing that down. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to line this one up in between the sections. Now, it's not going to cover all of this part of the album because I cut it at 1 inch. So you're still going to see some of your craft of your album left in that section there, and that's okay. I just didn't want this to overlap any. I want to make sure that I didn't cut it too big. So this goes right in here. Pay attention to your directions and burnish that down. And then I'm going to go ahead and try to slide this over and get this section covered. So there it is. I'm going to close it all back up. These pieces and flaps that are in there, and then it catches with the magnet. And there's the album, wedding album covered, and we're ready to move on to some of the inside layers, and we'll do the decorating on the outside later. The next thing we need to do is, if we're going to put magnets in, is to think about where we're going to put them. And because I'm using, okay, and looking at this section here, if I flip this back, I see the number 5, and that is a good place for a magnet. But when I open up the inside, they show putting a number 5 here. So I don't know if they use 3 and then also a number 5 inside, and I know I don't want one all the way in there. Okay, so my thoughts are to put my number 5 magnet here and here, and then this will hold all of this inside. Okay, so I have this set here, so I'm going to pull the sticky off of one side. I'm going to put the magnet on the circle, and I'm going to pull the sticky off the number 5 again, the magnet. So I've got sticky there. I'm going to press it down, lift it up, and then I'm going to put my tape on this one way up here on this flap, this closure flap, and then on my magnet way down here. And this magnet set will hold all of this inside. Okay, so the next thing is I'm going to completely cover this section here. There's no magnets in this, so this 12 by 12 piece of paper can go exactly here in the center. Now if I were to mat this with the cardstock, which I may, this will need to be trimmed down. So let's grab a sheet of our pearl shimmer, and that could go down. And we have this one that needs to be trimmed. And then if I want the natural ivory color next, so I'm grabbing a sheet of that. The pack, hang on just a second. Okay, I should have already had those out. But anyway, so then I would need to trim this down. So if we're wanting to mat this one, so I'm going to do that off. I'm going to cut this and assemble this outside the album, and then I'm going to drop that in. I am not putting any pockets or flaps on this. I just think this is beautiful. You could use this for your photos here, and then this could all be filled out. So I just think this is a really pretty spot to just leave this solid, and I'll just be trimming on the edges here. So let me move the album out of the way and we'll do that. Okay, so our pearl shimmer is going to be 12 by 12, and our ivory natural color is going to be 11 3/4 by 11 3/4. So we'll trim this down. Okay. So that goes on top of the pearl. And now we want this piece to be 11.5 by 11.5, but I want it equally trimmed. So we're going to cut 1/4 inch off each side. So this first cut is going to be 11 3/4 on this side right here. So that's taking 1/4 inch off. And then we turn it, and we're going to cut it down to the 11 1/4, which, nope, that's not right. So we have 11 3/4, and we need this to be down to 11.5. Double check right there, 11.5. So that's cutting another 1/4 inch off. Okay, so that's correct on that direction. So here we're going to cut on this side, make it 11 3/4. So that's cutting 1/4 inch off. Save these strips in case you need them somewhere. Turn it, make it 11.5. So what I have done is I've cut 1/4 inch off each side of this piece of paper, so that it's going to fit on there and it's equal. You want to make sure it's equal, you're not lopsided, so the distance between each side is the same. So now we're going to layer this together. So this goes here, just double checking, and then the other goes on top. So I'm going to grab my glue and make sure we're getting it on as straight as we can. Put the glue around the edge. Glue this down and center it. Get it on as straight as possible. There we go. Burnish it with my hands. Take my big scraper and burnish it. Now then the next piece is going to go right here. and burnish that down. Okay, so now we're ready for the album. Just make sure all that glue has been spread out really nice and flat so there's no warping. Grab the album. Of course, pay attention to your directions when you're opening up. This is always on your right. And we're going to open up all the way to this first section here in the back. And this is going to fit right in here. Make sure it's not going over that fold there. And that's going to fit right in there. It's going to look really pretty there. Okay, so glue. Okay, and burnish it down really well. Okay, I love that. That looks so pretty there. Okay, so on the back of this flap, opposite from our marriage certificate, I'm going to put this stripe here. Now, I do not want to cover up this lip because it's open here, and it would be a great place to tuck in photos or tags or something. So I have cut this. I've left it at 12 inches tall. This is the back side of some cut-aparts. You get 2 sheets with the collection, and I have 2 collections that I'm using, so I'm not worried about that. And I cut it to 9 1/4 wide so that I can pull it back some, have some of the craft showing, and it still goes up underneath this flap, and then we'll add another piece of pattern paper here later on. So I have this ready to attach down, and I'm not double matting this particular piece. I'm just going to put it down like this and leave just the craft around it. So if you wanted to double mat, you could, or triple mat, however you want to call that, but I'm just going to put the pattern paper down. So I'm not doing that double matting on all of it. Just put my glue down here. And go ahead and put this over so the stripes are running up and down, and I want to make sure I'm lining it up here on the left side so that I can see some of the craft, and push this underneath that little lip there. I don't want to cover the lip, so I want to make sure it goes under nice and straight and stay straight on this side here so there's no buckling. So go ahead and put it in and then burnish it really well. And I think this stripe is really pretty. Now, this piece here, I'm thinking I might use, okay, I think I might like that. So it's going to cut off part of that at the top. So this will be 12 inches. And this section here is 1 inch. So if I cut it at 3/4, let's do 7/8 and see how that looks. So here, the top lacy edge, I'm going to cut at 7/8 of 1 inch. Make sure it's nice and straight because you want to cut it straight and even. Just like that. So that cuts that top part of a full piece. And this is going to fit right in there. And I like that, the way that looks. So 7/8 of 1 inch. So let's glue that. Or if you wanted this to match like that, you could do that. But I'm going to go ahead and do this with the black. Pull this lacy bit in. I just think that's pretty. So I'll put all my glue on this. Flip it over. And you could put it either direction you wanted to, but I'm just going to drop it in right here. center it. Make sure it's not going over the lip or over that fold. Make it nice and straight. Burnish that in. So that pulls the black stripe, and it leaves us with this lip that we can tuck photos in and photo mats. Okay, so there's that inside piece there. And we're ready to do some other sections. From 2 pieces of the same pattern paper, this with the gardenias and the bows and the lacy background, I cut the following pieces. I cut a 10 by 12 for way over here on this side. See where it says 10 by 12? And then a 6 by 12, which is the opposite side. And I cut here, I measured and cut it down to 4 7/8 by 12. And out of cutting all this, I had this scrap that is 1 1/8 by 12. And I still have this piece left. So you should be able to get all, out of 2 pieces of paper, these 4 sections for right now. So I'm going to, and we'll end up cutting 3 more of the 6 by 12. So we're going ready to glue this down. So this, make sure you're watching your fold here on your inside, and then also the fold here on the left. So now we're going to burnish that down. So it's about a 1/16 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch there from the edge. So I burnish it with my hands, and then I take my, so they're stuck down good. And then on this piece, I'm going to use the back side, which is the same lace, but without the flowers and the bows. So that's going to go right there. I am aiming for a very vintage, classic looking album. Of course, we'll add some of the images in with our decorating. Make sure I'm not going over the fold. Right here in this part and lining it up. Looks good. Burnish that down. Very pretty. So I'm going to slide this over, and we're going to work on the back side of the outer flap. So this is cut at 4 7/8 by the 12 inches tall. Right over the magnets. Okay, burnish that down really good. Okay, and then this last little piece here, which is 1 1/8 by 12, it's going to go in this piece here. Make sure you don't go over the fold to finish this section off here. Going to just drop that in right there. Make sure it doesn't go over the fold line of the book. Wipe off any excess glue that might come out. Just burnish that down with my hands, and then get in here with the scraper and burnish that down. Very pretty. So I've cut this one to 6 wide by 12, and this one is just put on temporarily because I'm going to make a pocket here with a die. But then I went ahead and cut, let's see here, this flap inside. I used a full sheet, so there's 12 inches tall. These have already attached down, and these are each cut 6 and 6. So I used one full sheet so that I could get this full image here Slide that over. Sorry about that. So I could get this one full sheet. This is a 12 by 12 cut in half. So I have 6 inches wide on each side, and then the 12 here. So I really love how that turned out. So that's how that flap looks. So this left side, we have this solid here with the flowers and gardenias, this lacy part here. This folds down, and this opens up like that. And then when this flips open, we have the stripe with the lace here on the inside. And then we have the marriage certificate. So now we're ready to work on this next section here, and I have pre-cut some of my paper, not all of it, to glue in. And so I'm going to get ready to share with you the sizes on all this. So for these little flaps here, you're going to need 4 that are 4 inches by 4.5, so it shows you on here. And then this side here to cover the flaps, for this size, you're going to need 12 that are 11 wide by 4.5 tall. So I'm going to cut all mine, and then I'll show you what patterns I selected for the different areas on this section so that we can finish this one. So here on this short flap here, this is 4 inches wide by 4.5 tall, and I'm going to use this stripe here on the top and the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and put my glue on and get these attached on. I didn't want to cut them all yet because I don't want to get myself confused, but this is going to go right here. So just make sure I'm putting it on. Make sure you don't go over any of the folds. Burnish it down. Really nice. Get the corners down on your pattern papers. And this one up here. So this is the stripe that's on the back side of the bride image. Okay, so put this one right here. And then when we open it up, okay, so the front of this flap here, I'm going to use the back side of the groom and get this pattern here. So I cut 2 of these alike that are 4.5 by 11, 4.5 tall by 11 wide. So that one's going there. Okay, and of course the matching one up at the top. So that when this closes, it looks like that. Plenty of glue here on the corners. You don't want your paper peeling up, so make sure I put the glue there and burnish that down. And make sure it goes on straight. Okay, so that's the outside of those flaps, like that, and then the inside here. And so inside, I'm going to put this one here. So I've got on the center inside, I've cut another piece that is your 11 wide by 4.5 tall. So this is the bride here. I'm just going to press that down so I can get in there. Put my glue on. And of course the bottom one on the inside I will have matching with the groom on the inside. Here and here I'm going to use the stripe that matches that. And of course also the same, the stripe here and here. So I'm going to cut those, get those ready to put in, and then I will decide what I want for the back side. Okay, so I have the papers cut. I'm ready to open this up, and I'm going to take this piece to match this one that goes on the flap when you open it, like this. Now remember, these are 4.5 tall by 11 wide. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue these down real quick. And the top section will be done the same. So I'm just going to line this one up here, just making sure everything fits in okay. Burnish that down. So now, okay, make sure it sticks down good. Okay. Now then, when you open it up, inside these two are going to be the gold stripe in the back of the bride paper. So this is going to be matching that right there. So this is going to go up here. Just make sure you don't go over the folds. That's really important in this pre-constructed album. You don't want to go over your folds any. There's that one there. And then we put this one down here. And I'm going to do this bottom one, and then I'll do the other one off camera because it will be exactly the same. Okay, so you see we got the stripe here, the groom all the way across. This folds up or down, whichever you want to do, and then like that. I think I like it better this way. Okay, so there's that one, and then I flip this over, and I'm going to put these flowers and the ribbon on the back side, so that kind of brings all that together. Put this one down real quick. So this long bottom flap is completely patterned now. So we have this on this side, this folds over, we have the stripe, we have this pretty print, we have the groom, and we open this up, we have the stripe, we have this print, and the stripe at the top of the groom all the way across. Now the top will be the same, except it's the bride on the inside, and we've already done that. So we just fold this up. So I'm going to go ahead and put my pattern papers on this part up here, and so then this left section of the album is patterned. So I have decided on my papers for the front side here. Before I go over that, I want to share something here on the this side. After I started looking at it, I noticed that I was off here. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how that happened, but it's a good mistake because I took these scraps. These are cut them 4.5 tall, and they're just a 1/2 inch wide, and it's the stripe going this way from the scrap, and I'm going to glue these on the end. So that's going to bring all this together. I like how that looks, so I'm going to glue these piece on the end and straighten both of these sections out. I don't know if I cut them too short and then put them down crooked because they look straight here. So, but those things happen when you're doing pattern paper, doing albums. So sometimes you have to add on a little bit to straighten them. So I left about a 1/16 inch of the craft showing right there. So I like how that looks, and so I'm going to put one up here too. So that just kind of brings this whole thing across. And then I've got a scrap here that I'm going to add in the middle to cover what I call the connecting space area. So let's put this on. Then I'll go over what I have cut for this front side here, and then I will probably glue those down off camera. So I'm going to just stick this one on here, get that on straight, and see that looks a whole lot better now. And I like how it just transitions the different direction of the stripe, and it brings it over here. This one is 12 inches long by inch wide. It's from a scrap, and it just fits right in here for this connecting section here. So I call it the connecting space. It's where the album's connected together from that one side. So I'm going to put all my glue, put glue on this back side here. And what this is, it matches the scrap, matches the one that's already down over here on this side. So let's just go ahead and line this up. Get it in the book. It finishes that section off really well. Burnish it down really good. My smaller bone folder and get in there and really burnish where it attaches down over the flaps. Okay, so that's pretty. We've got that continuing in. Now this side here, for this long front flap, the center long flap, I cut 2 pieces of the stripe, and it's going to go this direction like these over here. So these are 3 inches by 12. You want 2 of those. I have another one up there, so that's going to go there. And I've just cut paper for this front side. I haven't opened up on the inside. So let me move this over out of the way, and we'll open this up. So this bottom section here is a 5 by 12, and I cut it out of the back of the groom because I want to match this. And then this section, I took a whole piece here, and I cut this section first from the bottom, and that's an 8 by 12. That goes in there. And this is from a scrap. We have a 2 by 12 on the pocket right there. And then this is the remaining part of this page. It says 5 by 12, but you don't need the full 5 because it's going to go in the pocket. So this is the remaining 4 by 12. And that's going to slip in there and glue down into that pocket like that. So we're transitioning into a kind of a different shading of color, which kind of is the color of this lace back here. And I like how that looks. So we're switching over. This is kind of like the ceremony part, the bride and the groom, and this could be the reception part. So I'm going to go ahead and glue all this down off camera, and then we'll come back and start working, putting pattern paper on the inside. So for this section here, I went ahead, cut the papers, and glued them down because there's just not enough room with all the extending flaps for me to be able to show you really well underneath my camera. But I'm going to go over that with you. So I had it wrote down. So this first piece here, the front of the center long flap. So this here, I think I already shared it with you, but you cut 2 that are 3 inches wide by 12 inches tall. So I did this 2 stripes, the same on the front and the inside. So that opens back. Then this bottom piece here, you cut 2. So this is, I call this the bottom, that are 12 inches wide by 5 inches tall. So there's 2, so it goes over the magnet. So I did those both the same on the outside and the inside. So you can barely see that. Okay. Then here at the top, I think I did all this on camera. The pocket part is 12 inches wide by 2 inches tall. And then this was the scrap from this part here on the inside. This piece here is your center. I call that the center, the 8 inches tall by 12 inches wide. So you need 2 of those, front and back. So this one I did the same as this pattern here. So we have that. So that flips back. And the remaining part of this one is what went in the back of your pocket, which is your, I call that the top, 4 inches tall, because it doesn't have to go all the way down, by the 12 inches wide. So we have that. Okay. All right. Then open it up. So both those sides. Then here, okay, so here on this side, we have a long flap that lifts up. So I did it the same as the other long flap. This one's wider. So this flap, I'm calling it the large inner lift flap. You want 5 inches wide. You need 2 that are 5 inches wide by 12. So flip that up. And then here we have this fold out. So these are the fold out flaps, and you need to cut 6 that are 6 inches wide by 12 tall. So I used this piece here, a stripe going sideways. This piece, like what was on the cover, when you open it up, then I have this piece here that matches another one over here. And then when you fold this back, you have this piece here, this that matches the cover. So that's that whole section there. Lots of places for photos. And I went more with the more neutral colors for this wedding book. Then here on the left, I use a piece of this one here. And you need 4 this size that are, and I hope I don't miss any of these. This is my left. I have to find this. Yeah, my short flaps at the bottom, you need 4 that are 5 wide by 4 tall. So I did this piece, these 2 are the same, and then when you flip this one down, I did that plain right here. And I know you can't see it all because I just don't have room to show it really well. When I do the walkthrough, I'll have to do a different setup. See if I can use my phone in a taller camera, or a bigger space. Then this section here is a fold down. So this is, I call the large, just the large flaps. No, this is the center flap. So you do need 4 of these that are 5 by 8. So we got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I did all that in the neutral, and then I have large flaps, 2 of these that are 5 by 12. So I did this neutral pattern here, the diamond pattern, and when you open it up, you have it also on the back side. And then when you open this up, here inside, for the reception type stuff, I did use the champagne glasses. So this, of course, is a 12 by 12. So that's, I believe, all the patterned paper. Now, for, see, this one, and I believe it's this one, yes. I put them in temporarily with a repositional adhesive because I want to do some pockets with dies on those. So that is all the patterned paper of this. So this all folds down. The clip holding that, and that magnet holds that. Now on this side, I did run a ribbon through. I haven't attached it or anything. I haven't decided. I may put some kind of ribbon this away on this section here using this more ivory colored. So yeah, that's the pattern paper. Now I'm ready to start decorating. There's not going to be a lot of decorating thickness wise, but I do want to see about maybe adding a waterfall for more photos, and of course decorate the cover of the album. So that's it for now. I'm going to do some more planning and work on those pockets with the dies, and of course I will share that. So this is a really big project, but it's really easy because it's just a lot of adding pattern paper right now. You didn't have to construct the book, which is really great, and you have a really big 12 by 12 album. So make sure you check that out on countrycraftcreations.com. That is the Heartfelt Creations 12 by 12 insta-Album, and it's available right now at the store at countrycraftcreations.com. Okay, so I'm going to keep planning and do some work on my pockets, and I'll be sharing all that. Okay, to make some extra pockets in this wedding album, I'm going to be using my Heartfelt Creations Decorative Pocket Accents dies. You might, I already had this one, but you might want to check and see if Country Craft Creations has been able to put it in their store, or if they're planning on adding it. I'm not sure if it's still available or not from Heartfelt Creations. But if it is, I'm sure Tamara is going to be putting it in the store because it's a great die set to have to make pockets. So it comes with 3 different designs. It has this 4-inch, a 6-inch, and a 6 1/4. And I am using the 6-inch pocket, and then it comes with the die to cut your slots on your pattern paper. So I've already cut mine. I cut my decorative part out of the pearl shimmer artisan cardstock, and so here's the 2 dies that I used. So you punch these out of what you want on the front of your pocket, and then this you use on your pattern paper before you attach it down in your book. Now I measured mine and used a ruler, and this one I still got crooked, but I think I'll be okay. I'll just adjust it some. That's just me. I think it moved on me while I was die cutting. Anyway, so this is going to go here in this section. So you want to make sure that when you're gluing this down that you don't put glue where your tag or photo mat or whatever is going to go in to the pocket. So what I do is I'm going to put glue just along the perimeter here, the top, down the sides, across the bottom here, on the sides, on both sides. Now then you can put it here at the top, and then I can put a little bit at the top of this one, not a whole bunch. I want to make sure that pocket works that way. So now I'm going to line this up onto my section of my album. On as straight as I can. You can see that one's off a little bit. Okay, so burnish that down really well. Especially here at the corners. So this you glue over your slot. And so this is where I'm going to try to straighten mine up a little bit, hopefully. So I'm just going to put glue on the back. And remember, your art glitter glue does dry clear. So I'm putting it especially along the part that where the tag goes in and out, and then some of the decorative here. It's kind of like working with lace. And then I'm going to put this here over that slot. And I'm going to try to straighten it just a little bit. So I can see some in there, but it's not going to show a whole lot. So on my next one, I'm going to try, this one was pretty straight. Do a better job at getting that. So I may have to cut that out a little bit with my scissor. Getting it cut straighter. These are beautiful dies, and this is a wonderful, fun way to, especially for something like a wedding album or an album that you want some really intricate, pretty pockets. So I'm going to just line this up here. There we go. That one's better. Okay, so there's my pocket. Let that dry a minute. And when I make a photo mat, it's going to tuck down into that pocket. So let me just show you real quick with the scrap. So see how that goes in like that? And that one I'm going to have to cut a little bit to make it where it goes, but there's the pocket there. So I'm off camera. I'm going to do another one here. And then in the other section, I have an area where I was going to do some pockets. And I just wanted to show you how. And then I am using this particular die from Heartfelt Creations. And this is called the Decorative Pocket Accents number HCD1-7211. Okay, that's the pocket. I want to show you real quick on my cutting mat how I set it up. I did get this one cut correct, so I placed this one was 4 1/8 from the bottom, and this was 2 inches from the top, and so I taped them down straight. So I was able to correct the other one and do it one at a time, of course, because I only have one die, and I run it through the die cut. So this is the slots for the pockets, and then I've already die cut these decorative pieces that are going to go on it. So I just want to show that real quick, how you should get them on there straight. So those are a lot better, and I was able to fix the other one where it was showing some of the pieces. I just took my small scissors and cut that out in between there. So anyway, that is the pocket for this other section. So I'll go ahead and get these put on, and then we'll continue with some more decorating of this large insta-Album, the 12 by 12, using Here Comes the Bride from Country Craft Creations. Once all the sections are patterned in the insta-Album, then you can start adding in different elements and decorations. So some of them I'm going to be doing off camera, but I will certainly share with you what I've done. But I am going to show you a few things that I am doing. So here on this side, lift these flaps back for now. And I did do the pocket here on this section here, the same as I did on the others. So with the dies, I cut out my decorative and the slits for the pockets. Here I added a little doily because I wanted to pull in a little bit of white, and this is fussy cut from the tags, and so it's got the doves here in the black. So I wanted this to bring in some black because I'm making some photo mats. Now these are large photo mats. The black size is 4.5 by 6.5, so that I could actually put a 4 by 6 photo inside. Now this is a 4 by 6 in the off-white, the natural color. You can either leave that in and slide your photo in, or just use it for the black and use this as a size of your photo. So this 4.5 by 6.5 with the corner punch that I use. This is something I've had in my tools. You may have something different, so you would need to check to make sure what size, if you're using a corner punch, or you can just round your corners, whichever you want to do. So I've made one for each pocket for now. So that just tucks in there like that. And I will probably put extra mats in there. Here on this section, these are more narrow. These are the actual, the black mats are 4.25 by 6.25, and then the photo that will go in it, or the white mat, is 3.75 by 5.75. So I made it to fit here in this area like this. So like if you didn't want to put anything in there yet, you don't know what kind of photos you've got, well, you don't have to put a photo in, a mat in there if you don't want to. So that's what I've done, and I'm just going to leave it real simple like that. I'm not putting in thick flowers because you don't want to add a lot of thickness in here. So now I'm going to open this up, and I am going to add a pocket here on this side. So what I've done is I took a 2-inch piece of black cardstock, 2-inch wide. It's 2 by 12, and then the white one is 1.5 by 12. Double check that, make sure that I'm remembering that. So 1 3/4, and the gold, the pearl shimmer is 1.5. So I'm going to layer these up. Let me slide this out of the way so I can get a little bit more room here. So I'm going to lay these on top of each other. They're the same length. So 2-inch wide by 12, 1 3/4 by 12, and 1.5 by 12. So we're going to layer these up, and I'm just making a flat pocket. So line this up even in the center, burnish it down, take the gold one, so line that up in the center, and then I took from the tags, I cut out this lacy border strip, and it's 1 inch wide, and it's going to go right in the center. So just my glue to that. And just center it, lay it down on top of the gold on the shimmer, and that brings in all the different colors that I've added on the cover. And I've got this black lacy here, and this is going to attach as a pocket right here in this area here. So I want the lace facing that away, so I'm going to put glue on each end and then across the bottom. And then to flip it over and line it up here in this area on the edge. Burnish at the top and on the side. So now we have a pocket where we can put in extra tags or mats, photo mats on this page, or you can leave it where you can mat something there. So that's what I'm going to do for that side. So this folds over this way, and then these come down over that, like that. So that just kind of brings all that together. So I'm going to think about what I'm going to do on these different areas, and then I'll share that with you. So I may just leave these blank for photo mats, decide on that in just a bit. I am going to add in a waterfall. So this is going to be 6 flaps, and I'm going to make it out of 3 black cardstock and 3 of the natural. So all 6 of these, you have 3 natural and 3 black. Cut them out at 5 by 4.5, and you're going to score your 5-inch size on all of them at a 1/2 inch. So this is going to make our waterfall flaps. So I've scored all of mine already. So move this out of the way. And then I'm going to round the corners. So I've got my chamfer corner rounder, and I'm just going to do a 1/2 inch on the 2 corners opposite of the fold. So do that on all 6 of your waterfall flaps. Now you should be able to add a waterfall, different sizes, whatever you want to do in the album. I'm keeping it at 6. I don't want to make it too thick, just to be on the safe side. I don't want to real thick in that area. So I am burnishing each score line. So I have a 1/2 inch attachment flap. And I'm going to put these in every other one. I'm going to put a black, then the natural, and then a black and a natural. So I'm having every other one. Okay, so we got these all burnished. And now let's bring back the album so we can put these in. So I'm still working on the left side of the album. Here, so we have this here, we have this like that. So I'm opening this back, and this is where I'm going to put a waterfall on this back side here of this 6-inch wide flap. And I'm going to start off with a black one first, and you can drop this down if you want, or put it all the way to the top. I think I'm going to drop it down some. So I'm going to take my ruler or a spacer. I'm going to take a 1-inch spacer. And I'm going to line this in up at the top here. And this is where I'm going to put my first one. So I'm going to take glue on the back side of the attachment, the 1/2 inch attachment flap. So put your glue on. I'm going to stand up, make sure I'm getting it straight. So line up my spacer. And I'm going to put the fold of this, I hope my head's not in the way, up against the spacer. I'm just eyeballing and make sure it's about 3/4 of an inch on each side. And then I'm going to burnish that in. Then I'm going to take a natural one. The fold of this one is going to go up against the bottom of the black one. There'll be a 1/2 inch space in there. Just line it up nice and straight. And burnish that in. Then I like to lay it down. Wipe off any glue if you get it. Lay it down and see that I've gotten it pretty straight, as straight as I want. So here's off just a little bit. Okay. So what I'm probably going to do is put some trim up here on the top. And I'm just making sure that it is straight. It looks like it's off a little bit right there. I'm going to move it a little bit. I'm going to continue to put glue on the back of each 1/2 inch flap. And I did straighten this up just a little bit. I was able to straighten it up. So it's important as you put each one down, before it's completely in, that you fold everything down and take a good look at it like that. So now I'm ready for the next natural color one. Okay, so there they all are. I'm going to burnish it down. Okay. But I think I am going to put a gold piece up here. So I'm thinking, I don't know if I want a closure or not. I'm just going to look at it for a bit and then decide on that. Okay, so we got several things I'm going to be doing here to finish this. It does need a closure. And I don't want a ribbon tie-in. So I'm going to make this 8 waterfalls, except this one will be attached down. So cut one more that is 4 1/2 by 5. Score your 5 inch and a 1/2 inch. So we're adding one more waterfall in the black right here because I wanted it to make it even. So I'm going to put this one on. Oops. Okay, right here. Just double check it, make sure it is straight. Scoot it over just a tad here. Okay, burnish that down. Now then, I took, this one is 4 1/2 by 4 1/2 and rounded the 2 bottom corners. This is going to fit in here so that when this comes down like that, okay? But this one's going to be glued down, and I'm going to make the closure out of an album tag, which is another die you can get from Country Craft Creations. This is the album tags and accents. So I cut out the largest one in the gold, and it's going to go about right there. And then I've also punched out another piece that I did for the pocket, except that I cut the slot part off, and this is going to go up here to decorate the top like this. Okay, so I also made a 3 3/4 by 1 inch hinge and scored it in half at a 1/2 inch in the middle. So that's what's going to attach this down here at the bottom. So let's go ahead and put glue on just one of your 1/2 inch hinge piece here, and let's turn the tag over. See if you can see, make sure you can see what I'm doing. Fold of the hinge goes along the bottom edge of the tag. So the tag is 4 inches. This hinge is 3 3/4. So bring it in a little bit so it's not sticking out on the ends. So we've got it like that. Okay, and burnish that. So it should be right along the bottom of this. Put this on later. Okay, we're going to use a magnet. So I've got a little magnet here I'm going to put on this part here, and then we will cut out pattern paper to cover the magnet. So I've got this magnet here. It is a smaller one that I'm using that I just had laying here. Some tape on it. Okay. Now then, this is going to be a little tricky. We want to make sure, I don't want to glue this down yet because my flap's going under there. We're going to make it go right here. Let me get my temporary adhesive so that helps. So I can pull it up and line it up here. So that's where it's going to go. Okay. And then this will go underneath it. So I'm just getting my position for the magnet. Right there. And this will have pattern paper because you have to cover up the magnet. So I'm going to put my magnets together, put a little bit of tape on my magnet. These don't have adhesive on them, so I gotta add some tape to it. Glue on the magnet. Okay. Slide my hinge here underneath. Make sure it's straight here at the bottom. Bring it up. Press it down. Okay, so that's where that's going to go. I'm going to let that dry for a little bit. I'm going to go ahead now. I'm going to put glue on the inside of my hinge here. I'm going to lift this up and fit this underneath again and let it close down so I know where it's attaching. I have to move this magnet a little bit. This is why I like the basic gray magnet so well, because you can get everything in position better. Okay, right there. Then we lift this up. Okay, so now we're going to put this piece in with permanent glue. So this is attached, so we put glue on this. And we're going to line this up. And before we let everything become permanent, let's make sure everything is fitting the way it needs to up here at the top with the magnet. Okay, so we'll let everything dry, and then I will cut pattern paper that I want to use on this inside, this front, and this up here. And I'll cut that with a die, and then we'll get all that ready to go. Okay, so for this piece here, I cut it to fit here and then glue down the ends on the back, because you got to make sure you can fold up your waterfall. I cut out pattern paper with a die for here. I cut out a tag out of black, photo mat, black and white. The black one is a 3.5 by 4.5, and the white is 3 by 4. Rounded the corners and glue that on the front to pull all this black and white together. So then this drops down, and I use black cut with a tag here on the inside, so you can put a photo here. So we have all these. I'm just leaving them black and white. Get all my glue bits rubbed off. There we go. So that they're ready for photos. No pattern paper in on those. So that closes up. Then I put a Buddha doily down and fussy cut out Forever Begins Today. So that finishes off this piece. I thought about putting a ribbon here, but decided not to. I'm just going to leave it plain like that, so it just pulls up. And of course, over here we can tuck in different things. I haven't made anything yet, but like extra photo mats that you might want to put in to glue in. I'm just going to be tucking them into the pocket. I may make a booklet that goes in here. So this part here is pretty much finished. Of course, this for here, and you can put things here like in, let's see if I can slide this where you can see it. You can see what I'm talking about. This gap here, you can put tuck stuff in there. You can add photo mats there if you wanted to. So for this side, all I need to do now is I'm going to think about how I want to attach my ribbon, because I do want a ribbon tie for all this when this closes down. I haven't added anything to these yet because I'm not really sure what I want to put in. It's kind of like one of those things where you kind of need to not put something down on everything, because you need to leave it available for their photos depending on what they are going to put in. Of course, you could put a photo mat there, and then of course on the inside as well. And I think here I'm going to fussy cut out bride and groom, so I will put that on there, but I'm going to work on the ribbon part now. Decide how I'm going to attach that ribbon in there to tie this part down, because once you put the waterfall in, we really didn't need to put those magnets in. And so I'll put a disclaimer at the front of the tutorial that if you're adding a waterfall, there's no need to put magnets in, because they're not going to catch down. So that's just a waste of your magnets, and I don't want you to do that. So I'll make sure that you're aware of that at the front of the tutorial. On the left side of the album, on the inside across from the marriage certificate paper, I'm going to put a large photo mat that's going to hold my ribbon tie. So I'm going to make this in a layer. I've cut out of black one that's 8 3/4 by 10 3/4. Then I cut and I rounded off four corners with a 1/2 inch corner rounder. Out of the natural, I cut an 8.5 by 10.5 and rounded the corners. So this is going to attach right here on top of the black. So I'm going to assemble my photo mat before I put it in the album. So I'm just putting glue here, this one, and center it over it. Making it even on all sides, the best that I can. Okay. Then I take the pearl shimmer, and this one is cut 8 1/4 by 10 1/4, and then I used this corner punch that rounds and puts the notches in. So just put glue on the edges, and I'm going to put it here in the center. I'm going to kind of leave this part free. You can put a little in the corner. Oops. And attach this down. Same way. Just lining it up. Okay, burnish that down. Then I took a pattern piece. Now you could use either this side or the cake, which is pretty. And this one is cut 7.5 by 9.5. Now this you can replace with a photo, or you could trim a photo down and mat it onto the patterned paper. So I'm just going to stick this in like this. Go ahead and get it in the corner. So this can be removed. Oops. If you want, and put a photo in place. There we go. Just slide that around. So that's real pretty like that. I'm just gonna kind of slide it around and get it kind of even on the sides here. Okay, so now we're ready for the album. Open that up. So here on the inside, where the marriage certificate is, I'm going to close this down. This piece here, now I have wrapped my ribbon around and I have temporarily tied it on the front. But this is the position I want it to be. It's about, where's my ruler? It's about 5 1/4 from the left edge, the edge of the ribbon. And so I'm going to take some score tape. And I'm going to tape it down to secure it in a couple of spots here. Let's see where this goes here. So I'm going to put some ribbon tape here and up here. Just trying to make sure that the ribbon is secure. So go ahead and take tape backing off. Okay, and now we take glue on our photo mat to make sure I'm not putting it upside down, but with that pattern I can take that loose and change it if I did. So that's really not an issue. Put some glue alongside where the ribbon is. Okay, flip this over and this is going to go some of my glue fell off here. Okay, about right there. Just get it straight, burnish it down. Now I still have this flap here. If I wanted to add anything in here, I can. So you can still add, you know, like your invitation or whatever you want to tuck into that spot right there. But this secures that ribbon down. Now, let's open this back up. So when this falls down, I'm going to untie this. These two flaps come over, and now the ribbon's going to catch right here over these two short flaps. Just tie a bow. So that's why you want to make sure you play with the placement of your ribbon. If you put it too far over this away, it won't catch these flaps. Okay, so there's the ribbon there. I like how that is, and then I'm ready to work over here on this side of the album. Okay, so I went ahead and did a few things just to speed this process up a little bit. I did cut out from the tags the bride and groom and put them here on this flap here, and then I added some flat back pearls. And on the ends of my ribbon here, I've taken the charms that match. So I have one here on this side and one on this. So let me show you inside of this one what I have done. I think I've shown everything, but just in case. So here, this I've left plain because I just think I should leave places for photos. I'll make mats to go with this, extra mats, but this is the same way here. So this is for the groom down here, and the other one is for the bride. Okay. Then, of course, I'd already showed you this piece here, and I've got these tucked in, so I'll probably add some more in the pockets there. I did these mats here. And, of course, I've got the waterfall here. Really like how that turned out. It's really pretty. This piece here I added, and then I have tucked in here mats. I have a couple of loose mats tucked in this side over here, so I'll probably be adding some more mats so that they can be added into the book. So this closes back up, and then this I did in the last segment, I did this large for an 8x10 photo that you can crop down to fit here, and then we still have tuck spots here, and so we have this to fill out, and then a photo can be put there. So that's that side. So that one I'm going to say is finished. Just tie this back up. And then over here, this is where I did some stuff that I didn't show on camera. So I have the charm here. I did cut out reception and then did the flat back pearls. I've made these photo mats, some plain one, and then that one still needs punched. I cut out some of the pattern paper. I thought that was really pretty. I'm going to lug that one aside and get that one done. Just kind of to dress it up and pull this unties, and this one gets a little hard to show in the camera. So this flips up, and I left the whole back of it plain. And this is a pocket here. This lifts up, so there's still places for photos all in here on these flaps. Now here's where I got a window here that I have to be careful with. Right here, I made two mats that the sizes are 7 1/4 for the black by 5 1/4. The natural is 7 by 5. The pearl is 6 3/4 by 4 3/4, and then the pattern papers are 4 wide by 6 tall. And I use the pretty pink flowers with the shoes. And I just think that really dressed it up. Of course, they have the punched corners. So that's there. Let me bring this way on down. And this flips up. I'm leaving all that plain. Leaving that plain as well. These fold out. So these are the pockets. I did put the matching photo mats as I did in the others. These I've all left plain because, again, I want to make sure there's places for photos depending on the sizes and the orientation of photos that would go in there. And then we have the pocket here as well. So I am calling this side also done. Oh, and the reason for these down here, I forgot to tell you, is where I put the ribbon. This was holding the ribbon that ties on the front. So you just strategically place it there. You can't go through under all this because these are attached. So it has to go on this flap here, and then that's what holds it all in. So then that goes like that. And we bring those down, and then we tie. And so I placed it so that to try to get it kind of catching right here on this flap. And then, of course, I tucked in two of the bookmarks right there that are made that matches. So that section's done. Now I am at the point of finishing this by decorating the front. So we're going to get to work on that. Okay, so for the front cover, I'm going to make a frame. And I am using this die set, which is available at Country Craft Creations. I'll put the link down below unless it's sold out. Then should probably be bringing it back in. This is a great die to have. This is the Frame a Card Leafy Borders. And I'm using it to make my frame. And it makes you have two different sizes here that you can create. You have 1 by 5 and 1 by 4, so that would be and a 1 by 6 and a 1 by 7. So I'm using the 7 and the 5, so a 5 by 7, but it will be for a smaller photo. And what I did is I took the frame and did 2 short and 2 longs in the black. So that would be I did 2 7-inch longs and 2 5-inch long ones in just the solid. And then I took the decorative in that size, and I cut out 2 of the 5-inch and 2 of the 7. And what I did is to get this, because if you just use this decorative piece here, let me show them, it only punches out. It doesn't leave a solid frame around it. It's just the floral. So you have to layer these together and run it through your machine on your paper so that you have a border around it. So that's how you get that. Okay. So I love this die, and I'm so excited that she does have it in the store for you, because it's great for framing cards, but also just making frames for your album cover. So I think that you would probably get a lot of use out of it. So that's the Frame a Card, Heartfelt Creations, Frame a Card, Leafy Borders. I haven't figured out yet how to use that one. I don't think I've ever used it. I can't recall using it, but I have used these before. So to make this, I also took some of the white scraps and I cut 4 3¼ inch wide. I've cut 4 that are 6½ and 4 that are 3/4 wide by 4½, because I want to build it up just a little bit, okay, on my frame. And then this is the cut apart that I'm going to slide in. And I'm not gluing it down, I don't think. I think I'll just slide it in. We'll see how that works, so that whoever does a wedding album with puts their wedding photos in could put their own photo here. But for the decorative look, I'm going to use that. Then I've also pulled out 2 of the tags that I cut out. One with this floral piece here, and then this one with the ring in the wedding ring in the box. I'm going to do something different with my flowers. These I have in my stash. This is already a layered piece with the 3 full roses and 3 buds and the greenery and some ribbon. This already came that way. This is not available in Country Craft Creations. This is from my stash, as well as these. I don't think I'm going to use these extra roses. I'm going to lay those aside. But I have these pink flowers, because there's pink flowers in the images. I have these 2 different shades of pink. So I have 6 of those to use. And I don't know if I'll use this on the cover or not. This is an extra paper clip or bookmark. So I'm going to move the album out of the way and get the frame assembled, so before we attach it down. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to take these pieces and I'm going to make these double thickness. So I'm just putting 2 layers, 2 pieces of the same size together, so that'll be double thickness. Just layer these up. So you'll end up with 2 short ones and 2 long ones when you're done. Okay, so let's take our black pieces and I'm going to layer up the lace onto those. Okay, so now we have the decorative glued on top of black. And so these are going to go together like this. The corners match up. So I need to put these on the back. So I'm going to put the long ones on first. I'm just going to put glue on the back side. And then this is going to go right in the center of that piece, and it is going to extend some beyond the angle. So it's going to be a little bit like that. That's where we're going to join them together. So let's do the other one as well. Let's put it in the center. Okay. And if we need to, we'll trim some of it down if we have to. Okay, so now we have those two like that. Okay, so now for our short ones, do the same thing. Okay. Now then, where this extends on the short one, that's where I'm going to cut that off at an angle. Because we need to be able to butt that up and form our frame. So we'll take this like that. We'll put glue on this extension piece here. Put them together. Form a nice edge in there. The corners nice and flush together. And then this other piece here. Bring it together. Okay. Turn it around and do the same on the other end. And that gives us our frame piece put together. And it has a little lift on the back. So I'm going to let that dry for a bit. Isn't that pretty? So there we have this on the back. Okay. Now then, think about this, how I want it to slide in. Okay, so on this bottom piece here, I'm going to put an extra piece, I think, in there to kind of act as a stopper. Though we're going to glue it all down. Let me think here. I'm going to glue it all down except for the top where you can slide a photo in and out. Okay, so let's grab our book. I don't think we might need that. May not need that piece. So this flap on the right. Okay, let's just see where I want to position my frame. Now then, we're not going to put glue on the top piece. Okay, so we're just putting glue on the back here, on the two long sides and across the bottom. Okay, and then we're going to position our frame a little closer to the top, kind of center it in this section here, this left section. Looks like about an inch from each side. The flowers are going to go down more towards the bottom. So burnish the bottom. This has been left open at the top. Let's see, I may have to trim this on the side to get that to go in. So hang on just a second. This trim this down to about 3 3/4, and I think once that glue has dried, that it should slide in there okay. I may have to take my ruler or bone folder. I think I'm going to use my ruler and run that in there to make sure that stays open. So you might not want to put as much glue all the way towards the inner middle center side. Kind of keep it more to the outer edge for your frame. So that can be attached down more later. So this should slide in. Maybe trim down just a little bit more. So to accommodate more of your photo between those lifts that we added, you may want to make them narrow and more towards the outside, which I didn't think about doing that. This is going to work. Just trimming off a little bit off the bottom of the photo to get it all the way down in there. Okay, there it goes. Now then I can attach just a little more glue to the outer edge here. Lift it up. Okay, down in here I need a little more in the corner and right here. So there is that photo in that frame. I'm just making sure the frame on the edges attached down good. Now we're ready to do the flower part. Now I'm going to do something a little different with the flowers because some people I like groups of flowers, but some people may not. And you want to be able to easily take it off. So you want to use a magnet. And especially if they're going to store it on a shelf, they might not want the flowers getting mashed up. So I'm going to use some more of the large basic gray magnetic disc, and I want 2 sets. Because I'm going to put some flowers here and some over here. So I need 2 minus and 2 pluses. Now the smaller magnets might work for that, but I'm going to go ahead and use the larger ones. And as I said, I will put a disclaimer on the front, or a notation that you don't need, it's better to use a ribbon versus the magnets on the inside. So you can use those to use that I used on the inside. You can use it for your magnets here on the album cover instead. So I'm getting that. So I've got my 2 pluses and my 2 minuses, and they want to stay together. Okay, there we go. Now then, the flowers. So I'm taking these tags that I cut out. This one is going to go here. So I'm going to put a magnet on the back of these cluster of flowers. And I'm just going to glue it on. I want to make sure that it stays and let that dry. I'm going to take this other magnet, let that dry. So I want it finished looking like that. Now, if you're making your own cluster, you would just take some cardstock and you would assemble the arrangement on there like that. Okay, so once your magnet's dry, I'm going to take this little piece here. Okay, this magnet here, let's see where I want this piece to go. Actually needs lifted up some. Okay, so I'm going to take some more pieces of cardstock. And I'm going to glue to the bottom of this piece here to add some lift. Just right in there. So I've got two. Don't want it sticking out though. Let's see how that does. Need some more. These are about 1 inch just from that scrap of cardstock that I have. They don't have to be exactly the same because you're not going to see them. I'm just gluing a layer of, and I prefer to use cardstock versus, you could use chipboard, but cardstock, the color, you don't see it from the edge as you're looking in. And foam tape, I've had foam tape come loose different times. Okay, so that looks like it will work. Okay. I should have put my magnet though piece underneath. Okay. I'm going to pull the backing off this magnet and I'm going to glue it underneath this layer of cardstock that I've layered on because I want this to be, this is going to be glued down and these are going to attach to it like that. Okay, I know it's making sense, not making sense. So this magnet here is underneath so that the other one will attach to it. So now I'm going to put glue on all of this where the magnet is and the upper part. This is going to be a permanent attachment here on the album. So I'm putting it here at this corner and just letting it attach down. So the magnet is sandwiched in there. Let that dry. I have the magnet here and it's going to attach right there. So when this is on here, you're not going to see this piece. But if you want to remove that, you have a finished piece here for your album. Okay? So now I want to add these other flowers though. I'm going to move this magnet out of my way. A set of the gripping of the pink goes here. So I need some more of my cardstock scrap to create an extension on this grouping here. So I'm going to glue the edge of this cardstock. I know it's not green, and that's okay. Right about here. And now I'm going to glue these pink flowers onto the white cardstock into a little arrangement here. And then I'll trim the cardstock down so that you don't see it. So I wanted some pink flowers in here. But I also want it on the cardstock so that this comes off. So I'm going to let this dry, and then I will trim this off, and then we'll put it on the album. So this other piece here is the same situation with these flowers. We're going to make it so that these flowers can be taken off. So let me grab some more cardstock. For this one, I have my 1 1/4 inch scallop punch. I'm just going to punch a piece here. I think all those will fit on there. So I'm going to take one of my magnets, and I'm going to attach it to the back, and I am going to glue it also because I want to make sure it doesn't come off. So I'm going to glue it down in the center. I'm going to make sure and let that dry like that. Now this piece is going to attach down here, and we need the magnet behind it, and I want it kind of on the side. Oops. So I'm going to take the backing off. I think that's the right direction. I'm going to put it kind of behind where the greenery is. This one I can attach secure with some tape. So I have a magnet on upside down. Let me turn it over. Stuck it down good, but I have it on upside down. It's got to go like this. Yeah. Okay, so now I have the magnet in the correct direction here, and I am going to go ahead and glue this whole piece onto the album cover. And I'm going to put it right here. Kind of center it on the bottom. Go ahead and let that dry. Burnish it in there really well around the magnet. Okay, now I have this piece here. I'm going to arrange my little pink flowers on my little scallop circle. Okay, so I have them on that. I'm going to let that dry before we finish that all up. Okay, so while my flowers were drying on my magnet piece here, where you could still see a little bit of the cardstock scallop, I cut up some leaves off some other that matched and glued the leaves in to hide that. So now we have this piece, so the magnet attaches just like that. And you can turn it around any way you want. And then this one here, I trimmed off that cardstock there on the back. So it's not quite as pretty. I mean, if you wanted to cut another piece, you could, but it's not really going to show. So it's just when you take it off of that. So that fits there. So there's the album cover. It's pretty simple with the flowers. The frame, I think, is really beautiful on this. You could add the invitation or something here if you wanted to. But I'm going to leave it this way. So that's the end of this tutorial. I am going to be off camera before I do this showcase walkthrough, cutting more tags and photo mats that I'm going to stick inside the album. I've made it to keep it pretty flat. You'll notice this album has only got about a 1 1/4 inch spine on each side. So it's not real thick, but it has lots of flaps and fold outs for photos on the inside. And I think it makes a beautiful wedding album. It's really quick. It took me a while to decide on the pattern papers and everything, and I took more time with it so that I could show you what I was doing. But you're not having to make your flaps and your album cover, so that makes it quick if you wanted to do it for a gift. And like I said, kind of keep it simple, not put a lot of mats attached in it, but just make mats that you can tuck in the pocket so that they can finish up the album on their own if you're giving it as a gift. So anyway, thank you so much for following along with my tutorial. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Click on the bell so that you'll be notified of my next project. And make sure that you check out countrycraftcreations.com, and there will be a separate showcase walkthrough video on this album so that you can see how it all came together. Thanks so much. Check back later. Bye-bye.